This podcast is part of the Deluxe Edition Network. To find other great shows on the network, head over to deluxeeditionnetwork.com. That's deluxeeditionnetwork.com.
Bev's Video Kingdom is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised.
Bev's Video Kingdom really is brought to you by...
What the fuck?
What's up, dude?
One of my renters broke the toilet again. That dude takes giant shits. Now I know what I'm doing tomorrow.
Why don't you hire a property management company or something to take care of that stuff?
Because they suck, and they take 10%.
You know, our dude Hank owns and manages Heritage Realty Partners. I think he said he only charges 5%, and he visits each property at least once a month.
That's right. He's always posting beers from the road. You have his number?
Actually, I do. His personal number is 805-451-5734.
Perfect. Now he can deal with my renter's big shits.
Heritage Realty Partners.
For all your property management and investment needs.
This episode of BVK is brought to you by Missing Page Mysteries from Greenway Publishing Company. Hi, I'm Walter Hobbs, and if you're tired of your kids getting too excited about reading, you've come to the right place. Greenway Publishing Company, where we're about to revolutionize bedtime stories with our groundbreaking series, Missing Page Mysteries. Prepare your kids for an unforgettable adventure where the real mystery isn't the plot, but which page will decide to pull a disappearing act next. It's like a literary magic show, except no one claps. Our first installment, The Confounding Case of the Absent Astronaut, takes your child on a cosmic journey filled with plot holes, space-time anomalies, and the thrill of trying to piece together a narrative with pages missing. Astrophysics for toddlers? Why not? Join the Perplexity Parade at Greenway Publishing, because who needs fully comprehensible stories when you can have the joy of guessing what might have happened on that mysteriously absent page. All of this is Walter Hobbs approved, because I really don't give a shit anymore.
It's like choose your own shitty adventure.
Yeah. That's actually kind of a neat idea.
I wanna be at Beverly's, bringing me home with my movies. Just a blind by, no reason why. I love this scene. It's got Zach and Brad, your favorite podcast. Let's start this thing. Woo!
Santa! I know him! What up, folks? What up, BBK? It is Jingle Bell season. Jingle the bells, if you got them. Hey, folks, we are about to talk about the movie Elf. And I know I'm going to start this off right now going a little bit hard in the paint, because when we started this pod, we had listened to the Rewatchables. We all kind of had a affinity for that podcast. And I think all of us are members of the Rewatchables Facebook group, where a lot of folks talk movies. And people just love to make hot takes about Christmas movies. And of course, somebody was going hard that I just watched this movie Elf and it's shit, and just shitting on this movie. And then the second one that people like jumped in on is the movie we're going to do next week, which is A Christmas Story. And just people are going hard on those movies. And I'm like, man, I just don't think I could be friends with any of those people. So, well,
I mean, I could understand having an opinion on this movie, and we'll get into that a little bit, I'm sure. But A Christmas Story, how can anybody ever think badly?
So you're on one side of the fence and the other side.
Yeah,
of the fence.
I guess we'll get into that later.
Interesting. All right, folks, we're talking about Elf. I'm here. Nate, how you doing, man?
I'm here.
Okay, you're here too.
What are you looking for?
We're both here.
I'm here. I'm present.
Zach, are you here?
I am here.
Scotch.
I'm here. I'm excited to be here, Brad. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, hey, folks, we're talking about a movie that came out in 2003. And you know what? It's one of those movies that I like to say kind of revived the Christmas movie, because I feel like you kind of had a stagnation of Christmas movies for a while. I think a lot of the ones I really dug were like in the 80s and at least early 90s. And then all of a sudden things kind of like fall off for a second, and then boom, here comes Elf, and it kind of like revitalizes the whole Christmas movie, Christmas comedy, something that the whole family can sit around and enjoy. and I think it's a classic.
Well, let me ask you this though. Revitalization assumes that or presumes that it somehow brought back a genre. What since then has, you know what I mean? Like, it feels like it might be a little flash in the pan. What do you like that has come after Elf?
Because what year are we talking?
2003.
Which is a long fucking time ago, man.
20 years. Yeah, this year is the 20-year anniversary of this film. So, I mean, that's you're right. I guess. I mean, I just feel like a lot of Christmas comedy. Not that I like them. I think that all of a sudden you had kind of
the Tim Allen movies, the Santa Claus movies. Right?
Those were all kind of mid 90s,
right?
Christmas with the Crumps. I don't remember when that came out.
Yeah,
but that's pretty. I mean,
Four Christmases came out. You know, there have been quite a few. I don't know the years of all these. I might be saying they were before this.
I don't know that there's anything that's come out since then that I'm like, yeah, that.
There's been a few that I've enjoyed. In fact,
I'm not saying I didn't enjoy them, but I would say, I mean, every one of the movies that's on. So Four Christmases, which I really like. I know that there's been some controversy in previous podcasts, but I like that
spectacular movie.
Yeah.
That's 2008.
We had fun with that one last year. Go back to our podcast.
They talked a bunch of shit on it, Nate, and you weren't here to defend
Nate wasn't
me.
here. It was just me and Brad shitting all over it.
I was just doing elbow drops like the fucking brothers.
When I watched that movie, because Nate was like, we were going to watch this movie, and I watched it, and I was like, oh, so good. At least Nate will like it. And then he wasn't here, and then these guys were like, fuck you, this movie sucks.
Pretty much. That's pretty much how that shit went down.
So I did like Office Christmas Party, which is a totally different kind of movie. And there's Bad Moms Christmas. So there have been a few adultier Christmas movies, but if we're talking about stuff that's really,
I'm talking about that family classic, the one that you're gonna every Christmas you're gonna put this on. This is in my. And that brings up a good point. You actually you've hit on the head, because now I'm thinking about what movie is a must watch.
I was going to ask you this question
that came out after Elf, and
they're all coming out on streaming services now. They come and go so quickly, no one sees them.
My wife and daughter, they watch all of them. They're like, okay, here's the 3 new ones that came out, and then we're going to go back.
But they're not going to the movie theater to see them. It's not like an event where you get the whole family together, and you get popcorn, and you go to the movie in the Christmas time. That was a thing for a long time, and it's not a thing anymore.
I don't believe I went and saw Elf at the theater, though. As much as I like this movie, I do not think I went I don't think it was a huge
hit, was it?
I'm 23 years old, so it's I'm not really jumping.
The question you just asked, was this a big hit, this movie?
So I don't think it was a big hit in the theater necessarily.
225 million
in the theater.
Yes,
that's the theater.
Box office.
Damn, so it killed it, bro.
On a reasonably small budget. I think most of the money went to Will Ferrell, I'm sure. But it was $33 million.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, I would say I would counter Zach's point entirely, which is, I think, I should say, for me, what makes a Christmas movie really iconic is that you want to put it on in your home every year.
Right.
So I agree that there was a time when going to the movies to see a Christmas movie was a big deal, but most of those, right, even the classics, right, I mean, that's few and far between. I think you can still go see a fun Christmas movie, even though it's not going to be a classic, because the experience of going to at the time of going to the theater with your family was a cool one, right?
Especially when you're young. We're all of an age. 2003, I guess we were all pretty old, so I guess it makes sense that we wouldn't go see that with our family. But I feel like there's some movies that were but and honestly, now I can't think of them. What are some good Christmas movies that I feel like I saw the Tim Allen one.
Mm-hmm.
Santa Claus.
Yeah, I feel like maybe I saw that.
Yeah. I would have seen that in the theater. But if you look at, I'm just scrolling through some movies. The Holiday would be one that people would talk about, but that's much more of a romantic.
That's romantic comedy.
And I don't even think of that as much of a Christmas movie.
Well, I think Elf. Here's the thing. I'm going to qualify it, is that I think Elf is one of those movies that you're going to want to show your kids. This is one of the movies when my kids were starting to be of age, just kind of
you're waiting movies. For when can they see Elf?
I want to show them Elf, yep. and I think it was early age, because this movie is very. There's nothing really confrontational or controversial about this movie at all.
So can I share my experience showing Elf to my kids? I've shared it before.
Yeah. We got to hear the story.
I called my kids out. We're going to watch this Christmas movie. It's so good, you guys. It's so funny. You guys are going to love it. My kids fucking hated it. And there was no redeeming, there wasn't
Do you think there's any reason, when you think back about this, is there anything that you can think of, why it didn't hit, or
I just think that you have to be of a certain time and age to get the Will Ferrell yelling is funny.
Right.
Like there's, I think for a certain age group, higher than us and lower than us, Will Ferrell yelling is just an old guy yelling, and they're like, "Why is this guy yelling so much? I don't get it."
He doesn't do a ton of yelling.
He does a lot of yelling, dude. Like all his famous shit is him yelling. Like all the freaking scenes that are so great is him like speaking loudly and irreverent.
Yeah. I mean,
You're talking about in general.
In everything, in Anchorman, in SNL skits.
But in this one,
and-
he's a little dialed back as far as just the yelling.
But I mean, Brad brought up the number one quote from this movie: "Santa, I know him." Like it's just him yelling. You know what I mean? I think it's like.
But I mean, like Buddy the Elf, what's your favorite color? Like little things like that are just silly and ridiculous. Like I don't know. Like I think it's got a lot of heart to it, but I love the fact that like we have a. I mean, you're not. Do you enjoy the movie yourself though?
I love the movie, and I was so excited to show it to them, and my wife loves it, and we were both excited to show it to the kids, and they kind of shit on our dreams on that one, which is kind of par for the course for these kids.
Oh, it's
There's the fucking horror movie fridge.
Is the fridge screaming?
Yeah, you hear that?
I like this movie. I don't want to like be negative. I'm not going to say that I dislike it at all. And I full on agree that if I'm thinking like what are the iconic Christmas movies that I'm going to try to run through, this is on the list. It's probably, if I think the break point is around like 6 or 7. They're like 6 or 7 for me. Christmas Vacation, Home Alone, The Santa Claus, A Christmas Story, and then probably this one if I'm not going to go into like adult where like Die Hard.
So Charlie Brown is not in there.
It's not a feature. I don't think of it that way.
And no Muppet Christmas Carol.
Or like there's like the old Rudolph claymation ones and
Yeah.
stuff. But I don't, that's for me, like we watch Home Alone, and I would actually put Home Alone 2 in the mix for me.
Yeah, sure.
But Home Alone runs and Home Alone 2 run on our TV over and over again.
Your daughter was doing quotes from Home Alone.
Oh, yeah.
She's 3 years old. Like, it's really young for doing quotes from Home Alone.
Yeah,
She was like, Buzz's girlfriend, woof. And I was like, what did she say?
Yeah, we're gonna
was
get her.
so funny.
Yeah, we're gonna get her a T-shirt to wear that says a lovely cheese pizza just for me.
Yeah.
But I mean, so it's in that mix. I think for me, it's the least iconic of them in the sense that like I like it a lot. It's really good, but I think it's trying really hard to be like a quintessential Christmas movie. It's not. I don't know. I don't even know how to like put it relative to the others. Man, maybe that's a stupid take.
I'm going to put it as my top 2. Like Christmas Vacation and Elf are the 2 movies I must watch at Christmas time. Like that's
it doesn't,
right.
it's not
guaranteed.
there.
Christmas Story is like nostalgia wise is underneath, and we'll talk about that next week. But Elf and Christmas Vacation are the 2 I'm like I have to watch. And like there's a lot of movies we watch where like I'll be on the couch, I might be on my phone, or I'll be like falling asleep or whatever. It's like, but this one and Christmas Vacation, I'm like, okay, I'm throwing away everything, shutting down the phone so I can like sit there and focus on these movies.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
It takes a lot for me to shut down my phone.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So I have kind of a complicated answer to this because I think I would guarantee that I was probably a lot older than
Yes,
all of you.
You were always a lot older.
My first fucking watch, you asshole, was way later. Like I didn't see this movie when it came out. I didn't see this movie for years, and I actually only saw this for the first time a couple years ago.
Oh wow.
And I'd always heard how great of a Christmas movie this was. So it was way overhyped to me. And a lot of people say it's their favorite. It's their must watch, just like you, Brad. Like they watch it every Christmas. I understand that. I love Will Ferrell. He's funny to me in everything he does for the most part. So I'm a big fan of his. The rest of the cast, everybody's great in this. But the first time I watched it, it didn't really grab me. But I also watched it by myself, probably with a little bit of attitude, thinking, oh, well, how great is this? Whatever. Watched it again with my girlfriend. I said, I want to watch this with somebody else to, feed off somebody.
Somebody that you love, bro. Like
Right.
it makes a difference.
And
I
it
swear
absolutely
it
did.
does. Yeah.
Absolutely did. And I laughed at a lot of parts, had a great time. But at the end, I still had some issues. And again, I've overanalyzed it because fucking it's what we do. But is it one of my all-time, like, do I have to watch it every year? I don't think it is for me. But it got better on my second watch. So maybe I need a couple more watches for the things to really click, which is like Anchorman, I don't think hit good the first time I watched it. I'm pretty sure it took me a couple watches to really get Anchorman and love it. But that's one of my all-time favorite movies. So I don't know. I think it's one of those things you kind of get into the habit of watching it every now and then. Right now, I don't think I need it for the holiday season. Didn't hate it. Liked it a lot. Had a lot of fun. But I do have some problems with it. But I'm overanalyzing a holiday movie, which I probably shouldn't do.
Maybe it's that it's not an every scener for me. Right. So it's like the best scenes in Elf are for me like as good as any Christmas movie. Like when he decorates the store, and like, they everybody wakes up to that and he hears her singing and like that whole sequence.
He gets in the shower with her.
Is just, Zoe Deschanel's. Yeah. But that whole sequence is like, it's perfect, right? Like it's as good as any sequence in any Christmas movie. But for me, I think the difference is that there are some scenes that, and I think honestly, a lot of the stuff with James Caan, who I really generally like, a lot of those scenes feel to me like they're trying to move to the next like fun part, and
trying to slop some fucking plot in there.
Yeah, maybe that's.
Are we talking about all the book company stuff?
I wouldn't say all of the book company stuff, but I would just say like some of that and some of the sort of like, I think they're trying, they try really hard to build him up as being like the curmudgeon, right? As being like the Grinch.
It's not that bad.
And it's like feels forced to me in some way.
It needed more. I think he wasn't bad enough. And then there wasn't enough of an arc for him. Like there wasn't a real reason for him to actually realize that Buddy is great. Like that whole story again felt forced.
It was like just accept that you have a 40-year-old son with special needs that just came into your life and needs you to take care of every need that he has right now. Here we go, boom, and fucking the wife's like, duh, like isn't this great? And he's like, fuck. Which I totally get. Like that had to be a lot for him to take on, right? Like,
But I mean, the payoff is that he realized, oh, this dude's actually not special needs. He really was an elf that grew up in the fucking North Pole. And it's like, I feel
like you're absolutely right, but he didn't get enough like grace in the very beginning when he's being curmudgeon-y. It's like, is he being curmudgeon-y or is he just trying to fucking sort through this shit? You know what I mean? Like James Caan's character is like just thrown into like, oh, you have a son. He wants to come to work with you all day and fucking sit next to you and talk crazy shit to you.
But I mean, his actual son says, no, he's the worst dad ever. He kind of sets the scene that it's like, actually, he's been an ass like pretty much before he got here.
But maybe that's what it is like, he doesn't come off that way. Like he kind of comes off as being a
busy
little bit
dad.
Distracted. Maybe it's not even that I don't.
But the children love the books. I mean, come on. He's an ass to this old like lady that works at a nunnery or whatever.
I mean, I'm not even saying that I guess I think it's just, I don't think they need some. I wish they would give me more of the like magical Will Ferrell and less of the sort of like attempt to create the arc,
the Scrooge out of James
and it's not even, again, it's not terrible, it's not bad, it's just I think those scenes I find myself waiting to get to the next scene I like. Whereas like in Christmas Vacation, I'm like, dude, every scene is its own thing. Like in Home Alone, I'm like every scene, like those are the two that I'll like. Christmas Vacation, Home Alone, I'm like, I'm watching this every Christmas.
It's funny because my biggest question is just, why does James Caan have a son who's like 12 and he's 60 maybe? I don't know.
Some people get started late. Okay, we hate that. Okay. And some people start early and late.
That is true.
Snip, snap, snip, snap.
A little bit in the middle.
Yeah, snip, snap, repair.
Right.
Snip, snap, snip, snap.
Yeah, I just needed like one more little scene of James Caan witnessing Will Ferrell like doing something to make him believe that he's an elf. Like I needed, like he's in that meeting, all of a sudden he just decides to leave the meeting because it's the right thing to do. All of a sudden seemed forced that he's all of a sudden going to be a good guy. I think I needed more of a reason for him to leave that meeting.
I think he sees Will Ferrell being a good dad. I actually almost think it's a little jealousy. He's like, Will Ferrell's actually being a good dad to my son. And I think he kind of comes to that realization of like, well, shit, my son seems to be happier than he's ever been. My son isn't just a little prick. Like, I think he's probably thinking, oh, my son's just a little prick. He doesn't like me. He doesn't understand my life. And now he's like, well, actually, if you put in some effort, like you can make this kid happy. And he's like, well, shit, my kid actually is happier than he's ever been. I don't know.
I think
kind of my take.
the kids being too hard on James Caan.
Yeah, a little shithead. You know,
Yeah,
just
I mean
needs
James Caan's got a
everything.
lot of stress at work.
A lot of stress. Got to make this
Leaving
fun.
pages out of books. I
He's
mean,
not cheating on your mom. He's not drinking to excess and beating you. Like, what the fuck do you want from this kid?
Maybe he was. Mary Steenburgen seems a little bit like beaten down. She
does seem like a kept woman.
She
Yeah.
might be my favorite like mom character.
Yeah, she's very mom.
Dude, she's fucking great.
So Peter, I will say that the Miles sequence with Peter Dinklage is just
Oh man.
Well, you get some
We'll get to
awesome
that later, for
cameos.
sure.
Some awesome cameos in this movie.
like that.
Tremendous ones.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, no real hate here. I love it.
All right. Well, let's. We've got a pretty famous director here. He's now kind of pretty much the king of everything. And who would have thought that this guy from Swingers just turns into the most gigantic like person in Hollywood? We're going to talk about Jon Favreau right now.
After you play the intro, I want to talk about Jon Favreau.
That's exactly
the point.
That's
I'm
pretty
upset.
much the
I'm
plan.
upset with Jon
That's pretty much
Favreau
the
right
plan.
now.
You want to talk about the director? Shut up, Nate.
Grab yourself a drink, authorize what directors think. Maybe sometimes get a guess, makes us look good. Let's drink, laugh, and pretend we know what we're doing. Drinking with the director, brought to you by Last Call Brewing.
All right, folks, it's about that time we talk about the Deluxe Edition Network. BVK is the podcast of the year on the Deluxe Edition Network, and we will continually remind you of that until we are no longer in that
and
role.
probably after. Like
are the-
we're the reigning.
What are the
champions.
chances that we won't be the podcast of the year? Let's
I don't
be
know.
fucking
It depends on if the
serious.
rules get changed on us. We'll
I
find
don't know
out.
if people like crypto and fucking banana haircuts.
Deluxe Edition Network's biggest fan, Zach.
Horses, crypto, and banana haircuts. I mean, come on, guys.
All right, Scotch, we've got some podcasts of the month for December. Who are they?
We do. We have the Steve and Crypto Show. They talk about various topics, pop culture, movies, horror, music, comics, all kinds of fun stuff. And we also have, speaking of pop culture, we have Deluxe Edition, which is what the den is named after, with Casey and Ray. And they have,
Casey? I know that guy.
he started the network.
Sounds like a lot of fucking people that are afraid to pick a fucking lane. Everybody's like, we talk about everything under the umbrella of pop culture. It's like, dude, pick a fucking lane. Let's make a fucking podcast. What's going on, guys?
Dude, you're fucking aspiring hard, man.
Harsh.
I mean, what? Jesus Christ.
Hey, he found out that his kids didn't like Elf, and he's just like, man,
Testing the
nice little
limits of how far we can go before we get kicked out of the den.
Yeah. So
So I have a question, and I mean this in all sincerity.
Is it about what we're drinking right now?
Wow.
All right.
Are we going to talk about that?
I think we should.
All right. Fine.
Nate's drinking syrup.
I'm drinking Diet Pepsi and still Makers. I've got a bottle of Makers that I'm
Since last week.
It's been
he's
a
just
week and he's still drinking it.
drinking.
still drinking it.
You say that scotches all week. It was awesome.
I was just sitting here on this couch.
we had a
It kept
slumber
coming
party.
up.
We
Yeah.
braided each other's beards.
Yeah. Not much hair to go around. Thank God for Bradder. We'd be just like the most hated fucking skinhead podcaster on the side of I'm drinking Modelo, the drink of the Especial. So cheers, gentlemen.
I am drinking some Last Call Brewing, and I'm drinking the Golden Oakie, which is they just rebrewed another
Yep,
batch.
yep.
Nice and fresh, delicious, and it's kind of a golden stout. I think it's exactly a golden
That's
stout, isn't
exactly
it?
what it is. With actually fresh hazelnuts. Yeah.
It's yummy.
It's pretty good. And then I've got my Citra Bowl, which is it continually shows up around the Last Call tap room, and it's just a delicious Citra hazy pale ale that is my just go to when I need to drink something nice and easy. And there's no Operation Nectar on. I drink Citra Bowl.
Are we done?
So
Yeah,
You can talk
hey,
now.
Nate. What you'd like to bring up something?
You mentioned that Jon Favreau is like the king of everything, and I don't understand.
So,
like,
dude-
I've misunderstood. I love Jon Favreau. This is not a criticism. I'm a huge fan, but I don't understand the basis for that. I've heard people make that reference. And I think it has something to do with the Marvel universe.
So listen.
Because I'm looking at his IMDb here, right? He's the writer and creator of The Mandalorian, which obviously is huge, and the Book of Boba Fett. He's the director of some things.
This is his line. So 2001, he directs Made.
Yes.
Which I think we can all say it was a legit movie.
I enjoyed
pretty funny.
it.
I don't think it was a huge hit.
It was him and Vince Vaughn back together.
It was right after Swingers, 5 years after Swingers.
A little bit crazy.
Yep.
Which he did not direct.
Right in the middle of.
Yep. He wrote Swingers, did not direct it. So he directed Made. He directs Elf is his second movie as a director.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to Zathura, A Space Adventure Garbage. And then he does 2008 Iron Man. This is his fourth movie. And I think a lot of people think that this was a great movie. After that, Iron Man 2, Cowboys and Aliens, Chef, which was a great one right in the middle of
Right, but not like a...
The Jungle Book that sucked, the live action Jungle Book, the Lion King live action that sucked. And then he's right into every fucking like Avengers.
He's executive producer. That's the thing.
But he doesn't direct any of them.
Right. So it's not that he's directing. That's when I say he's the king of Hollywood, it's because he's executive producer on pretty much every Marvel movie, every Star Wars series and movie he's like involved in now. Like,
but I guess I think of him as this like huge director, and he's not really. He's just like putting money behind shit.
Look, just because you guys hate Marvel, it doesn't mean that it's not a big deal to. He started the whole fucking Marvel.
Somebody
thing
already
Iron
wrote
Man.
the fucking story, dude.
A lot of people's favorite character and movies in the Marvel cinematic universe is Iron Man.
Yeah.
So I'm not got a lot of humor. It's funny.
And no matter how you feel about it, it started a fucking pretty huge industry.
I'm not even being critical in that sense. I'm just saying I have my criticisms of Marvel, but what I mean is like is a practical point, which is, so he's the executive. I mean, being the director of Iron Man 2 is a big deal, but like there are lots of people that direct a couple of big movies that aren't like the king of Hollywood. And what you're saying is that he's the executive director of all these things. But like if you look at the executive director credits on any given set of movies, there's a lot of executive directors, right? Executive producers. So I guess there's something happening that like, obviously you're reading reporting from Hollywood that's sort of like, explaining this, but I'm asking, is he is he really the executive producer that's in charge of these things, that's running the show?
Well, Mandalorian, he's like drawing storyboards.
He was the showrunner for The Mandalorian, which meant that like he was responsible for what a lot of people consider one of the better Star Wars TV series.
Which was incredibly well received.
Yeah.
But like, how much money does that make? Like, I don't know how that works. Like, it comes out on a streaming platform, a Disney property owned by Disney. It comes out on a streaming platform. Like, they're not paying him per episode. Like, I wonder how all that works.
Grogu, Baby Yoda made Disney a shit ton of money.
It's still making them every time. Every kid that goes in there and they buy a Baby Yoda.
Yeah. I guess I'm just saying, I'm literally saying, I mean this in like a non-critical way. I just don't understand the like dynamics of movie making in a way that would help, that where I would be able to say, oh, I see that his role as an executive producer there is clearly the head role of all these very important and very big money making movies where he's making decisions that are really helping that to like come to pass. So I'm really not like, I think I want to understand. I wish I had understood better, like the behind the scenes that makes him sort of like so powerful.
And I wonder too, like somehow he's inserted himself in the Marvel universe to the point where he's like an executive producer on every movie that comes out. So I wonder if he like got hooked into like some sort of like percentage of like sales or
he was
whatever
smart,
it was.
he did.
I'm assuming he's one of the richer people in Hollywood.
He's got to be one of the richer people of all time, dude. Like every movie that he's connected to the last 10 years is like the biggest movie that it's ever come out.
And let me just say real quick, something you said is like somebody already wrote the story or whatever. How hard is it? Dude, if you ask comic book people, these movies are not what the comics were. Like they've made completely new movies on most of these. They took the characters and definitely have taken it to different places.
The same shit that's happening. Like some kid that read the comic doesn't know what's going to happen.
And most of the time, comic book people are pissed, like that they didn't do this story or they're not.
They're just angry incels, though.
Well, that's possible. But they do. They'll take other like smaller superheroes in this universe, and they'll change their powers and shit. Like they're definitely taking some liberties on some of this stuff. And I think just the fact that he took these movies and took Iron Man and made it into this amazing start of this franchise, and I just think that you can't take that away from him because he had the vision to make this amazing big spectacle of a movie. And like it or not, if you're not into that shit, that's fine. But he made a great movie. If you haven't seen it, it's really good.
Oh, I love Iron Man and Iron Man.
Question to both of you then, and I think Brad likes them too. Is it as big of a hit without Robert Downey Jr.?
Oh no,
absolutely not.
Oh, no, but
because he's
perfect,
really amazing.
He is perfect,
right?
He is, but those two movies, the writing and it's like a very restrained, and like I think like I've seen a hand.
It's not a summer blockbuster type movie. It's actually got a lot more like plot and character development.
Yes, and the dynamics are more. I haven't seen a ton of the Marvel post Iron Man. I've seen some, but like I guess you might say that there's a lot more camp. And, it's not entirely campy, but it's like it's meant to be sort of not quite tongue in cheek, but a little bit fantastical,
right?
And I think Iron Man, there's a sense in which it's not. They don't play to being overly fantastical. It's like they try to keep it a little more down to earth. I mean, again, like Iron Man and Iron Man 2 are great. And if the answer is, well, those are it's because he directed these things that set off the Marvel universe, that's a fine answer. I feel like there must be something I'm missing.
Well, Mandalorian, I mean, he took Star Wars and like said, I'm going to do kind of a gritty cowboy version.
Old West. That's what I was just about to say. It's fucking killer too.
And it's got a little grit to it. And so it's like, it's taking some of the camp out of Star Wars and like made it a little bit more like kind of
gunslinger coming to a random town in the middle of nowhere, whether it's a planet or whatever it is. And he's got a problem he needs to solve. And each episode has kind of an ending to it, but also like a longer overarching story.
Yep.
That shit was really well done. And I don't know, because I think that he only directed like the first 2 episodes or something.
But as showrunner, he's in the writer's room.
Yeah.
And he's
So
like
he's
helping him
really
develop.
behind all of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now I will say, and this is my hope as kind of a Jon Favreau stan, and the reason I like Jon Favreau, he comes across as a very nice person. Like
Absolutely.
He seems like a good guy, and I'm hoping that maybe he's just some psychotic asshole behind the scenes. But it doesn't seem like that. So I'm just hoping that he just ingrained himself as being like a nice guy that wants to make fun movies, and he loves food, he loves Star Wars stuff, he loves Marvel. He just wanted to kind of like, I just want to be involved in all this shit, and just got himself into all of it. And now,
and he's incredibly talented.
As an actor, when he shows up, I love him.
He's great. I mean,
even on
Happy
Friends,
Hogan
when he was the UFC fighter that Monica gets with on Friends, the billionaire UFC fighter.
He's played MMA fighters in a couple of movies.
Well,
It's
yeah.
funny.
In the Four Christmases.
His character's amazing. In fact, he might be the like single best part of that whole movie.
I would agree with that.
His wife too is so great in that movie.
When they're playing Taboo or whatever that game is.
So
Well, wait, what movie is it where he's where the puke at the poker
I love
game?
you, man.
I love you, man.
Oh my God,
Yes.
he's
so good in that too.
yeah.
and you
he's
can't
great.
discount him in Swingers or Maid or any of those
yeah.
movies either. He's fucking amazing.
And there's some website that who knows if it's real or not. It says celebrity net worth, and it says Jon Favreau is worth $200 million. So that's
I think
nice
that's low as fuck.
It's a good career.
Yeah, I think that's
If
low.
he's really connected to all those Marvel movies, that's low as fuck.
All right. Well, we've done a nice little deep dissection of Favreau's career, and I'm sure he's sleeping on a bed of money tonight. So, what questions do we have as he just kind of rides around on hundreds and stacks of 20s and stuff? He's just floating around in it. What are we going to ask him?
So
he's kind of like Scrooge McDuck.
So I'll go with one that's like sort of ambiguously not necessarily just for Favreau, but for like Christmas movie directors in general. How much do they think about, and how much as a parent do you have to think about Santa spoilers in Christmas movies?
This is right on
Great
point
question.
here.
So like, I just want to open it up to the table because like there's several ones that we watch that I'm like, fuck, dude, this is like totally spoiling Santa.
But
and
this one
even though
doesn't,
at the end it
Well-
kind of like brings the Santa thing back, but like, I don't know, man. It's a little too close if you don't want to ruin it for your young kids.
So this was exactly the conversation my wife and I had today, where I was like, I'm thinking about, I need to watch Elf for the pod. And she was kind of like, she's like, yeah, that's fine. But I don't like to put movies on where like the conversation is about how grownups don't believe.
Yep.
Because like, she's like, I don't even want to have the conversation where like, they're like, well, wait, why don't grownups believe in everyone?
Put that
Santa?
negativity
Isn't that the
into their
basis?
head.
I mean, okay, besides like the Rudolph cartoons and things like that, isn't that the basis of every Christmas movie?
I don't think so.
I don't necessarily like.
And where in Home Alone is there any like conversation about someone not believing in Santa?
Or
Where
in
in
Christmas Story.
Where in A Christmas Story is there any conversation?
Oh, Christmas Story. I mean, he's buying the gifts at the and like they're having the whole conversation about buying his gifts for the kids. Oh, Santa's not going to bring anything because they don't have money, and then like Uncle Clark,
like it's subtly enough done for young kids that it's not really like because the Santa Claus is the worst one. The Santa Claus is like they fully like spoiler out and Santa and then sort of bring him back.
And that's like we can't watch Santa Claus right now because we have a 3 and a 5-year-old. And so like it depends on the age, right? Because there's going to be an age at which those kids are familiar with that dichotomy, right? That's sort of like we have to, some people don't believe, but you have to believe, or grown-ups don't believe, or whatever. But like there's a point where like you don't want your kids to even ask those questions.
Well, pardon my ignorance, because I don't have kids, so I don't know. But
can your cats know about Santa?
My cats, they still believe. But can you go in
Santa Claus with CLAWS?
Can you have that conversation like before you turn on a movie? Say, hey, look, listen, this is a fantasy movie that they're going to pretend like there isn't a Santa Claus, but like.
You totally could if it was important, obviously, for them to see it.
Right.
I think the point is just there's something about the magic of that age where they're just like unquestionably.
They blindly believe.
And it's like no movie is worth like chipping away at that at all at that age.
Does Elf chip away? Because I mean, the whole conversation 100%. is he's like some people, and he says, oh, some people believe that the parents do all that. And he's like, how could the parents do that? Well, like it actually kind of like reinforces Santa.
It doesn't if you have no even thought that that's a possibility. Like if you're a 5-year-old and you're like, of course, like the parents don't do that. Like I never even have heard that suggestion before. I think there is a small window of time where they have just like the uncompromised belief. Mm-hmm. And I think there's something real about like not wanting to fuck with that.
There's a Christmas movie that introduced the like theory that like some kids don't believe, some kids believe. And it's like, you want to kind of keep them in that sweet spot for as long as you can of like, unless they're like 12 and they're like,
yeah, I mean, that's a different thing.
Yeah.
But at when you're young, right. I think that's not the conversation you want to have.
If I'm not mistaken, I think there's a website that kind of says like Santa spoilers. Like it basically tells you like how much they get into the whole conversation.
Oh, that's good. That's a great idea.
Probably something to check with before you show some of these movies to your children, I guess.
I think I'm going to like purposely try to ruin Christmas for your kids. I've just decided right now.
I mean, I'll fight you.
Call me.
My son's a senior in high school, and if you fuck up Santa for him,
call me old one more fucking time. Let's see what happens. Your kids are not going to believe in fucking Santa Claus anymore. All right.
So
I don't know if my kids. I mean, I guess my daughter still does, but my boys definitely are out on that shit.
You know what? There was never, and this is honest truth. There was never a conversation between my kids.
Happens.
There was never any acknowledgement. I mean, unless they're like absolutely like, I mean, just blindly followed it forever. We did the best job ever of keeping Santa in their lives. I'm pretty sure like we just never had the conversation. They weren't ever like, you know what? I don't think there's really a Santa. Like they play along with it. They know that Sprinkle's going to show up, which is our elf on the shelf. And they're going to get some gifts from Santa still. Like there's going to be a couple gifts from Santa. And it's just kind of like it's like we just play along.
But bro, you just made me so sad because your kids are much older than mine. You're still doing the fucking elf thing.
Oh, we still do elf on the shelf.
Oh my God. I hate the elf so much.
Dude, you know what? You can ruin Santa for my kids before you can tell them about the elf on the shelf. Because if I ever have to do the elf on the shelf,
you guys don't do elf on the shelf. Oh my Lord, I can't wait.
Oh no, I do the elf on the shelf.
Happen. I know. We need to make it happen with Nate.
I'm going to straight up tell them this is something people made up. It's not real.
Mommy and Daddy have laid down drunk, and Mommy is saying, "You have to go move the elf. You have to go." And I'm like, "I'm fucking comfortable right now." She's like, "Get up, bitch. You have to go move the elf."
We have all had those moments. I've like drunkenly stumbled around, been like, "Fuck, where's this thing not been?" Fuck, I'm just gonna chuck it at the fan and hope it stays up there. And that's where the elf is.
I'm gonna come to your house since you haven't done this. I'm gonna be Scott smoking pot and just like hiding in your house, like just smoking a doobie.
And just be like,
Yeah.
I'm watching for Santa.
Hey, there's Scott in the pantry.
Scott with the pot.
Actually sounds pretty dope. You let me know. Let me know when you'll be there.
Yeah, no, I really want to bring
We're not doing
Elf on the Shelf to your life because it's very important.
I'm gonna straight just tell him that's made up.
I think I'm
It's
gonna
not
get him Elf on the Shelf jammies.
That's just a pretend.
Elf on the Shelf
stuffed animal.
jammies is what they're gonna get for Christmas. I'm
great.
just gonna deliver it to your house.
You know what we are doing for jammies this year though?
What's that?
We're doing Home Alone pajamas as a family.
Like
We're
this-
all gonna have a different T-shirt with a movie quote, and then as our
your
Christmas
picture?
pajamas. No, it's like
okay.
We always have custom. We always match Christmas pajamas for the day of.
We're doing F1 is what we've got. F1
Jesus,
jammies.
you guys are fucking wild, dude.
Yeah.
I'm doing whatever my wife ordered from whatever online service she ordered it from. But I don't have to wear one.
Whatever my cats say.
My daughter wanted F1sies is what she wanted this year.
I
but
love
we
that.
But we couldn't find ones that made sense. Like they're not authentic or anything.
All right, Bryn, you win. That was cute.
That was awesome.
I'll give it to you.
So I guess I wonder for the movie, how much did they want Will Ferrell? So Will Ferrell plays a little bit of a different character here in the sense that it's a more innocent version of his wackiness than you get in any other movie that I can recall.
For sure.
And so I guess, how much does Favreau really have to rein him in to keep it more of a kid family movie? And how much does Will Ferrell want to push it? Right. Because there's,
I think as with any Will Ferrell movie, there's probably a NC-17 version that you could make with all the cutting room floor stuff. There's a rated R version, there's a PG-13 version, and there's a PG version and a G version. Like you could take all the outtakes and make whatever you wanted it to be, right?
You could have Bad Elf for sure.
But what's funny about it though, I mean, you're thinking about it, he's not necessarily crude, or like a lot of that is sort of more scripted and written. It's more that like Will Ferrell goes dark and it's funny. So like the Will Ferrell, I mean, Anchorman's a little different. And funny enough, like I actually think Anchorman, the character, Ron Burgundy, is the most similar to the elf character in a way.
Wow. Well, I was actually surprised that I thought that Will Ferrell was actually bigger at his closer to this peak, but this is actually kind of fairly early.
This is early.
It was Zoolander, like old school, and then like a couple other ones that weren't quite as big, and then Elf, and then Anchorman was a couple years after this.
Yeah,
I thought he was bigger when this came out.
Yeah.
This actually, I think, launched him more than
It's made
he was already big.
$220-something million,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
Fuck.
No, I think this kicks him into like star mode.
Absolutely.
But I guess I think like he, you think about like the versions of him being sort of like a little too grown up as him, like, screaming, yelling in a kind of like angry way, right? He'll kind of flip the switch a little bit as opposed to being overly crude. So like you can imagine some of that being not necessarily overtly problematic, right? Like it wouldn't necessarily get you a worse rating, but it changes the tone of the movie.
Old School does come out right before Elf. So
Right before.
So Old School kind of hits, and like that's where Frank the Tank. I mean, no, not
Yeah, Frank the Tank.
Yeah.
Frank the Tank.
So
I screwed up his name, I think, once previously on the podcast.
I guess to put a
Gotta
pin
get
in,
it right.
to put a pin in all this, it's like it's been 20 years since this movie came out. Is there any other Christmas movie that holds as much clout as this movie that you would like put on for your family?
You mean since
years
that-
from
since
2003 to 2023? I don't think there is.
Nope.
And I don't know if that movie ever comes now with the way that we release movies and the way that things kind of go. Like, I'm sure there'll be another huge Christmas movie that when our kids are older, they'll be like, oh, we watched this, but I feel like it's going to be the same ones we've been watching. I don't know.
I mean, my kids still watch Christmas Vacation, Home Alone. Like, I mean, that's
Exactly.
same movies we watched as kids.
Right.
20 years is a big gap between like a big like household name. Like you say Elf, everyone knows the movie you're talking about. Like,
Yeah.
There's no other Christmas movie that's come out that I can think of that's been like as big. I bet you there'll be a Pixar one that'll like blow everybody's socks off.
So what's different? I mean, I guess like what is it about? I mean, what is it about this movie that is the magic?
I don't know.
That makes it classic, because it's not just Will Ferrell, right? Like, I mean, he's great, but and I was sort of making the case that I thought that there were weak points in the story, but there's something about this that makes it stand out, right? There are other Christmas movies that come out, rather the Christmas Chronicles come out.
Is it the throwback to sort of the old like Rudolph sort of animation style?
They have the throwback there
Yeah.
that for nostalgia's sake, that gets all the older generations like, oh yeah, those movies, like I know that. I think it's just, it takes Santa and the North Pole and everything very real. Like it makes it like a real place. It makes it feel like this actually exists. Like the toy shop. I love the fact that they're building fucking Etch-a-Sketches and stuff. And it's like, it's all done. Like, and they're just, the elves are like the jolliest little guys ever. They're all super stoked. I mean, they're kind of worried about Buddy not making enough Etch-a-Sketches, but most of the time they're all pretty jolly and happy and enjoying their lives. And that kind of, I think, creates the magic of like, you know, what you kind of expect. Like, that's what happens at the North Pole. Here we get to see inside look at what's going on with the sleigh, that they have to have a jetpack now because that shit doesn't work.
More cheer.
I guess I just feel like 20 years is a long stretch for no like bigger Christmas movie to come out. You know what I mean?
It's a short. When I think about, it took me a little while to realize, but I was thinking of Prep and Landing.
Oh, that is a good call.
I watched it on your recommendation.
That's not bad.
We haven't watched it since, but we did like it.
It's something because I think it does the same thing where it kind of takes the whole. It does not spoil by any means. It's all about like it's real Christmas and like they make it serious and the little elves they go in they prep the house before Santa gets in there. It's pretty awesome. They've done three little one really short, one about 30 minutes, and the other one's about 30 minutes. So like they're both little shorts, but awesome and they're fun. And that is another staple of our.
You mentioned Noelle a couple, and I haven't seen that still.
Anna Kendrick, and she's awesome in it, and it's a lot of fun. That one was good. 8-Bit Christmas. You said your son loved that.
They did love that. But that's not one that they've been like, let's watch 8-Bit Christmas again. But I bet if I brought it up,
that's what I'm saying. It's the generational thing of like, there's so much shit out there that's like, because I almost forgot about that movie. It's like, oh shit, we actually really liked that.
Speaking of winter movies, I watched Rocky 4 with my middle son like 4 times in the past 2 weeks. Just
so good.
So into boxing right now. He wants to fight everyone. He wants to punch everything. It's so weird.
Oakdale MMA. Sign him up. My little nephew's going now.
At Oakdale MMA?
Yeah, they have boxing. They have
It's probably the same weight class as Michael McDonald.
Probably.
5th grade.
So I don't know if we got an answer. I don't know if you
I'd say prep and landing is the only thing I can think of
but I'm
that's
saying,
like a guarantee.
But what is it about this one? I mean, I don't know if I have a, you know,
it's got a lot of heart. It's every nobody in there is like too evil. Nobody, everybody in there seems to be like good natured, and they're all trying to like help each other out. Like it's got a good message in the end. Like I don't know, Santa, you know, is kind of a thug. You know, when he's in the Central Park and he comes up on him, he's like, hey, don't try anything or whatever. He's like, he's ready to fight. Like Santa's a little aggressive. I like that.
Well, how about this? When was the last movie that was made that was like a real budget feature film that was like, was it directly engaging the kind of like magical element of Christmas? You see what I'm saying? Like there's plenty of Christmas movies, but what other one is like a high budget one where they're like, we're going to deal with the myth of Christmas, the elves, Santa, a sleigh. Like, you know, I can't think of another one.
I mean, the Santa Claus recently had they did another
the Santa Claus
Disney series.
Okay. Yeah. But I mean, one sort of argument here is that like, it's, you know, you go all the way back, right? The Miracle on 34th Street, right? There's a couple of those that are actually really good, and they do this. But you know, it kind of, it addresses something. I mean, like it engages something that's like really, really, you know, fundamental to the way that we sort of think about Christmas as sort of a magical thing, but it does it with like a serious budget.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe that's part of it, right? Is like, you know, there's Favreau's a great director. You know, obviously Will Ferrell is a really funny actor. The other actors in the film are good. The singing is really good, right? There's a lot of pieces of it that are good, but it's also a high budget film that takes this on and then does it in a family friendly way.
But that's because now they can make those Christmas movies that go straight to some streaming service,
right?
And people eat them up like fucking pumpkin pie.
But they don't have to put any money into them for that to happen.
Yeah, I guess that leads us to, will a studio do like a big budget Christmas movie at this point? And
I got to think at some point they will.
I don't know, but you have to have an interesting take. This was an interesting take. This was like something different. Oh, you got the elf who was actually a human going to New York, fish out of the water, which I'll talk about later. And it's just like that becomes like the hook. It's like you have to have a good hook to do an original Christmas movie. I think it was just an original idea that hadn't been done before. I think that maybe is also why it kind of hit pretty well.
Yeah.
There's
Fabs.
no more new Christmas movies. Sorry, gentlemen.
Fabs, we love you. At least I love you a lot. And I think we all love you and respect you in some way or another. And, cuddle up with that money tonight and keep getting involved in good projects. We'll see you in a little bit.
Hey, this is Casey Shearer.
And this is Ray.
Do you like pop culture?
We're pretty sure you do.
Then come on over and check us out at deluxeedition.show.
You will not be sorry. Or maybe you will be. I don't know.
Is it a one-night stand, or do you hit it with a shovel, or take it home to mom and dad? It's like fuck, marry, or kill. It's Shag Snack Body Bag.
Maybe a
Is it a one-night stand, or do you...
Fuck yeah.
Guess who's back on the board, y'all? Making
done.
mistakes like the best of them. I was going to say a snow shovel, but whatever.
That's like some Home Alone shit.
Yeah, exactly. Shag Snag Body Bag is what we are doing. Shag, Scotch, what do you got?
I'm gonna shag that my high school sense of humor still hasn't left me, and I laughed at some of the dumbest shit, like the long ass burp, and then he's so proud of himself. He's like, "Did you hear that?" That was one of the biggest laughs I had, and it just felt good to just feel like an idiot.
Bodily functions are funny as fuck.
It is funny.
Nate, why do I feel like you've had breakfast like the elf did at one point, where he was just like putting all
spaghetti with fucking syrup on it?
and then the Pop Tarts and the candy.
I like calling Nate out for this.
Well, earlier tonight we had some pizza here, and Nate had a plate. He had a slice of pizza on it, and then he has some Reese's Pieces in a bag. And Brad asked, "Did you just put Reese's Pieces on your pizza?"
It looked like he did.
First of all, I don't mix weird sweet shit with my savory stuff. I eat them a lot, but separately. Okay.
They only mix in his stomach.
And second of all, I don't even like spaghetti.
Okay, but take away the spaghetti. Like, have you ever just kind of crunched up a bunch of different types of
doesn't
candies?
like spaghetti?
I'm just kidding. I like spaghetti.
Okay, gosh.
I like it okay. Yeah, I mean, I would say that I've done some things. I might have like...
I've seen some things, man. I've eaten some things.
I've had some breakfasts, where there's been things in bowls together that...
Nate's got a sweet tooth, just to bury the
I have a sweet tooth.
A little bit.
Yeah. But it comes out more at night than it does in the morning. Like I start out strong. I'm like, you know what? Give me that toast and some
egg whites and fucking toast.
And then like lunch, and I'm like, you know what? Like I can make, like half a cookie is like, it's fine. Like I'm on track here, And then like 8:30 at night, and I'm like, I wonder if I only have like 7 handfuls of the milk chocolate chips, we'll still have enough for the cookies
Can
tomorrow.
I have a pudding sandwich?
Okay. Have you guys ever or at least thought you invented a snack? And example of that for me, and
What'd you make, Scott?
I may or may not have been smoking something when I made this, but I took a tortilla one night and put some peanut butter on it.
Okay.
And I poured some honey on it.
Okay.
And I took grape nuts and sprinkled the grape nuts on it.
I think you definitely
And
did.
rolled it up like a little tortilla.
I don't even know what a grape nut is. Is that like the nut out of a grape?
No, the cereal.
Oh,
Grape nut
Jesus.
cereal.
It's the cereal I don't think I've ever had. I've always wondered, like, why the fuck is grape in the name? It does not look like grapes.
Came out in Scott's time. Probably
don't
has
know.
raisins in it.
No, it's just like
It
little
doesn't.
crunchy.
It's little
looking
crunchy
bits.
like balls, little crunchy
It's called
balls.
grape nuts?
Grape
Yeah.
nuts. I don't know why they're called grape
Is it
nuts.
supposed to like imitate grape seeds?
Yeah.
I guess. But why would you eat grape seeds?
So peanut butter, honey, hot tortilla, grape nuts.
Wait,
Yeah.
hot
Did
tortilla?
Did you warm the
Not hot,
tortilla?
I didn't warm the tortilla.
Nothing warmed? Oh, I thought you were going to do like a little quesadilla would be like,
That would have
next
been
level.
good, like a sweet quesadilla.
Shit. Stoners, write in. Tell us
your
what do you
favorite
think.
So I
created snack. What would you call it? Do you have any name?
I didn't. Like peanut butter burrito was about as close as
peanut butter and honey toast was a big one for me as a kid.
Okay.
I had a lot of that, but that's not quite the same.
Scotchadilla?
Scotchadilla.
Scotchadilla.
I used to very similarly make my own snacks and think that I made it up. And I used to take a empty plate, put grated mozzarella cheese on it, put it in the microwave, and then eat it with a fork.
Yeah.
Oh, I did that too.
Crispy cheese.
Oh,
just
that was
Straight
the
up
best.
melted cheese.
that got talked about on the pod at some point.
Yeah.
This conversation.
And then I'm like, how did I get lactose intolerance?
I was on a work trip when I worked in advertising. We were on this ski trip, and I was sharing this fucking apartment with this bunch of people. This one girl was hammered, and I was sleeping in the living room on a fold-out couch. And I was like half out, but I heard her in the kitchen just fumbling around. She's all hammered. And I heard the microwave going at one point. Didn't really think anything of it. Went to sleep. Woke up the next morning. We were kind of cleaning things up. And I opened up the microwave. And there was a plate with Starbursts all melted in there. Shit. A bunch of Starbursts on this paper plate.
That's amazing. That sounds delicious too.
She didn't eat it though. She just put them in there, started the microwave, and just
I wonder if
off
she just
or
hit the 30-second button or if she was like, 3 minutes is perfect for these.
Right.
I used to melt now and laters.
Up in the microwave?
And on a fire.
And then what do you do with them?
I used to already roasted now and laters at one time.
Roasted now and later?
On the fire.
Do you eat the ooze or like
Yeah. It's a secret.
I don't remember.
the secret of the ooze? That's
Probably.
the actual secret.
It sounds like a thing I would do.
All right, Nate, what are you shagging, Nate?
I'm shagging Zoe Deschanel, and I'm actually
Are you jumping in on Zach?
oddly, I'm not actually shagging her, which would be itself a smart move, but her singing in this for me is one of my favorite parts. She has a great voice, and the way that I think she has a great voice, and these songs really work. Like her sort of caroling covers are great, and so I would say I could watch those parts over and over and over and over again, and I would never get tired.
I do remember the first time I watched this, that I was kind of watching the movie and like I wasn't really digging it yet. That was the scene that grabbed me and made me want to stick with it, and made it was like there's something so charming about her voice. She got a very kind of a smoky, sultry feeling to it. And then when Will Ferrell joins in, it's such a cool little duet.
Yep.
She's got a couple albums, one of them with M. Ward that is called She and Him.
A very
secular
She and Him
album,
Christmas.
Yeah, and then they have a Christmas album that is like our go-to when it's
Very
like
She and Him Christmas is
yeah,
awesome.
It's really dope.
Super legit. Yep. Zach, what are you shagging here?
I'm shagging blonde-haired Zoe Deschanel, and in like the most vanilla way possible. I think she's great. I think she's a great actress, great comedic actress. I think she does a good job with the part. Will Ferrell's so over the top, and she's so kind of down to earth and almost just like not really like putting up with his bullshit. And I think it works. It works really well for the part, and I think that she's generally great.
Yeah, when she calls him over, when she's like, "Hey, what were you doing in the bathroom?" Like, and she's
quit being a fucking weirdo.
Yeah, she's like pretty serious about it, but then she falls for him. My shag is fish out of the water movies. I've always been a sucker for a good fish out of the water movie. I love Crocodile Dundee. I love Short Circuit.
We did a fish out of water pot draft, didn't we?
We sure did.
Go back and listen
Elf
to that.
might have
one.
been number one.
It was a first
high
rounder.
pick, yeah.
But I will say I talked about seeing Napoleon. My favorite Napoleon is Napoleon and San Dimas, and when he's riding water slides and going bowling and shit. That's and Ziggy Piggy. Speaking of great sweet concoctions, so that's my shag. Snag. Nate, what are you snagging today?
To be honest, I think I'm gonna snag Dinklage.
Oh,
like
so good.
Sorry, yeah. I mean, the obvious one here, obviously, is Will Ferrell, but Dinklage goes on to be Tyrion Lannister.
Tyrion Lannister, correct.
But there's also, I mean, if you look at through his catalog, right? He's in The Station Agent, and it's funny in this one because the gag, right, is that they're playing to him as a little person, right?
Right.
And they're sort of like he's the elf character is obviously supposed to be describing him as an elf because in a way that's earnest, and of course he's taking it as though it's an insult, right? Because the character has obviously been made fun of or
and because he's a grown man,
right? Yeah.
Right.
A well-off grown man, very solid
like
professional.
A suit. Yeah.
And so it plays in here, but Dinklage also, I mean, he's great and funny and plays this part really well, and like it's really great. But I think it takes a lot when you're a character. He's obviously a little person that's a very like notable thing about, and a lot of people that have that particular sort of like characteristic get put into roles that are sort of like that, like sort of elf roles or whatever, and they tend to there are other characteristics that people have that they find hard to break out of, I think. Sort of the classic of like being typecast because of some character of you as a person, not as you as the character you play.
Like, I'm going to wait for the next Lord of the Rings sequel or Willow sequel before I can get another role. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And Dinklage is just like, totally transcends it. And so here, right, he it plays at that just a little bit and kind of like
he's a cocky douche.
Yeah. He's kind of like, he's like playing back at that in a fun way. But then, of course, in his career, he just is.
Right.
He's just a killer in this way. Like he completely breaks out of it, and I love him.
Yeah.
You ask people about their top like 5 characters in anything of all time, and Tyrion Lannister comes in the conversation with a lot of people.
If you haven't seen it, which I assume most of you have, but it's Game of Thrones, right? And he's, I would argue, the main character. I mean, there's a lot of main characters, but you could argue that he's the sort of most main of the main characters.
He's kind of the heart of the whole.
I would say so.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it's
Great character arc.
Incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, I just piggybacking on that. Yeah, I had pretty much just him being in on the joke and just going for it.
Yeah.
And I love that in general with any kind of movie. If somebody just, look, shit's funny, man. I know, and I know you got to be sensitive, and it's a very sensitive world. But when somebody who has ethnicity or if they're a little person or whatever, they're in on the joke and they make fun of it. Like, one of my favorite comedians is Brad Williams, who is a little person, and oh my God, he goes after himself nonstop because he's like, fuck it, dude, it's funny. And he can laugh at himself, and I love that shit.
Well, and what I like here, right, is it's like it both plays at it and against it at the same time, right? It's a very subversive kind of like, it's saying like, fuck you. Like this isn't fun. The character is saying this shit's not funny. Right. Like,
and then he kicks his ass.
And he kicks his ass. Right. And so it's like, it's kind of like playing at it, and, like you say, like he sort of can take a joke, but also like is able to sort of spin it a little bit in a way that's cool. So I don't know. I love it.
Zach.
I gotta snag the Buddy and the son's sort of relationship, going from like he sort of resents him, doesn't respect him, and like wants to keep his distance, doesn't want to hang out with him, to like he sort of wins him over, and like that whole sort of story arc with the kid who's like keeping everybody at bay because he feels like he doesn't have this great home life and he doesn't have like the love from his parents that he wants. He finds this in this other person, and I think that whole storyline is killer, and that's gonna be my snag from the movie.
I'm going to snag, and this was mentioned earlier, I really like James Caan's character in this movie. James Caan does a good job. He's the right guy because he's got that gruff side to him. James Caan allegedly in Hollywood has always been kind of a dick. He's kind of been an aggressive person to work with, and it fits for this movie because he's kind of an asshole, and even when he starts to come along, he's still kind of being an asshole. Like even like the last part where he's supposed to be singing, he's just like kind of mouthing the words. Like he's kind of still his asshole-ish self, but finally he does kind of sing, and that's what kind of culminates the movie. But he also fathered Scott Conn, who I think is pretty hilarious, especially in the Ocean's movies. Mm-hmm. He's terrific. He's been in some funny stuff. So I'm a big fan of Scott Conn as well. Tweeter in Varsity Blues. He's the best characters ever.
Tweeter's great. Ocean's 11.
Yeah.
He's so good in that.
So James Caan, thank you for doing a great job in this movie, and also for Scott Conn, and rest in peace.
Wait, Scott
Conn's dead?
Wait, did I say Scott Conn at the end?
I don't know.
James Caan is passed. He passed like a couple of years ago.
Scott Conn's dead?
Scott Conn, I think, is on Cameo.
Okay.
You can get him. He's itching his balls as tweeter when he talks to you.
Who's James Caan?
All right. Body bags. Before I start body bagging my co-hosts, Scott, what do you got?
I'm going to body bag myself for nitpicking the story too much. I think I should just enjoy it. Just look at the heart of the movie and just not think of how I want more of an arc with the dad and all this. I wanted more with Zooey Deschanel, like more of a reason for her to fall for Buddy and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And
I just want more of her, like more of her.
I do, but it's like at the end of the day, just enjoy it. So I was just going to body bag myself for that. But I do honestly think that it felt rushed in certain ways that I wish they would have added a few more minutes on this movie and added a few more subplots with see Buddy with a doing some sort of miraculous thing to make Zooey Deschanel say, "Oh my gosh, he's such a great dude. I see it now." Because he kind of went from literally being in the bathroom and then he was fired after that. Then he just shows up and asks her out. It was just kind of rushed and kind of weird. So
I completely agree, and I'll piggyback that. My body bag is going to be, they waste a lot of plot line on the weird like Santa thing at the end and all that stuff. I don't think we needed any of that. I think we needed more of like why Zooey Deschanel falls in love with the elf.
Yeah, with Buddy.
1,000%.
I'm going to body bag Santa Claus. This particular one.
Ed Asner?
Because he's grumpy? No, Ed Asner's Papa Elf.
No,
wait.
Papa Elf is Bob Newhart.
Bob Newhart. My bad.
Bob Newhart's great, by the way. I think I guess I don't love this version of Santa. He plays. I mean, it's fine for this role, and I get the reason for him set up.
He's not jolly enough, right?
Yeah, I think he's a little one dimensional as the cranky Santa. I would like him to be, like when they switched the Dumbledore actor from Harry Potter 3 to Harry Potter 4. It really ruined Dumbledore for me.
I mean, like when he died and they had to find somebody else.
Yeah. Exactly when that happened, and I was pissed. Okay.
Hey, no joke. My high school that I teach at, they did there's a play called Puffs. It's about the Hufflepuffs, and it's just like a parody of Harry Potter. And in the play, there's a Dumbledore for a while, and then like all of a sudden when it's year 3, there's a new Dumbledore. And it's like, if you don't know the joke, it's not like they don't really bring it up, but everybody, as soon as the next Dumbledore is there, everybody starts laughing that knows Harry Potter. So.
Yeah, and it's
classic.
It's poorly done. So anyway, I don't know. It just, I didn't. This wasn't my taste. I don't want an overly jolly Santa, but I wanted a Santa that was a little wiser, a little less flusterable.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm with you on that.
What about fake Santa? He was pretty solid.
I liked fake Santa a lot. That Santa I can get behind. Yeah.
Well. So which one? Wait. So it was Artie Lang, right?
It was Artie Lang's the original.
Sorry.
And then Faison Love is he plays the second.
That's
time.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, in my brain right now, I went to Home Alone and was thinking of the guy that was fake Santa that he walks up to. He's like, I know you aren't the real Santa you work for, or whatever. And I thought that was the same movie for a second. Sorry, because I just saw that recently.
Artie Lang. How about maybe you'll be dead or whatever he said? How'd you like to be dead? It's pretty crazy. My body bag is, and you guys know me, I always have a weird nitpick. And my nitpick in this movie is, of this movie, and I know it's an absurd movie and there's a lot of silliness in it, I hate when Buddy springboards into the tree to put the star up. It's like, it's so dumb. It's not even funny. It's just like, what?
Oh, this is just like your take. You don't like the sleepwalking scene.
I know. I always have just a wild, like, this one stands out. I just hate the scene every time. It's like, he just kind of randomly goes and bounces into the tree. He doesn't, he's not accomplishing
no magical
anything.
Move.
Yeah, it's just like you would think he has something. Like, has he done this before? And he just decides, I'm just going to just take out the tree.
Over, yeah.
It seemed like that was like maybe Will Ferrell just like, oh, this is something stupid to do. Like, let's do this. Yeah. Like, it just kind of takes me away from.
Maybe he wasn't used to the tree not being in the ground. Like usually he could just jump into the top of the tree
climb
and
up and
climb
put
up.
the tree.
You felt like that was where your suspension of
that's given a lot.
You're like, I was
in this.
That's
such a Brad take.
It does not go with the Buddy character whatsoever, and I hate it. And it's my least favorite scene in the whole movie.
The whole character arc.
Oh my gosh.
Who else did? Everybody body bag?
Yeah.
So, well, shit. I guess we're moving on then, folks. Let's go.
Crackle, Pluto, HBO, find anime on Crunchyroll, Peacock, Hulu, Disney, Netflix, Tubi, Sling TV, Shudder, Fubo. What the fuck is Fubo? Sure, it'll cause a sensation. It's a streaming recommendation.
All right, folks, we are streaming recommendations, and I'm going to start this off. In my shag, I talked about fish out of the water movies, and rather than give you a Christmas movie or something that I dig, I'm going to go ahead and go with the fish out of the water movie. I mentioned Short Circuit, but I'm not going to recommend Short Circuit 1. If you want a movie that has a fish out of the water in New York City, just like we saw with Elf, I'm going to go with Short Circuit 2. Short Circuit 2 is where Johnny Five is in Manhattan. He's right there in the thick of things like Buddy the Elf, and he runs into a lot of issues of trust issues and what's going on, and he gets involved in gangs. He gets involved in a lot of different stuff, and it's a classic of cinema. One of my favorite, like, just comedies. It's got a lot of heart. It's got one of the saddest scenes ever. And it's worth watching, except you got to rent it. Sorry, folks. That's not on any streaming service right now. So pay your, like, I think it's like $2.49 on Amazon. So it's like one of those like bargain bin rentals that used to have at Blockbuster. So, or at Bev's Video Kingdom.
So if you've got a kid that was super into the Super Mario Brothers movie that came out, you got to put them onto this 8-bit Christmas business. It's on HBO Max. And also, if you are somewhere between 38 and 52, you know what it was like to want a original Super Nintendo or regular Nintendo when you were a kid. And that's what this movie's all about. It's what's the guy from How I Met Your Mother, the Barney character.
Yeah.
Oh, Neil Patrick Harris.
Neil Patrick Harris
Doogie
is the
Howser.
dad. He's got a kid that is wanting a bunch of stuff, and then he tells him the story about how he wanted a Nintendo, and tells him, and it's like a flashback story to him.
It's definitely got a, it's definitely a throwback
really
to our
cool.
movie we're doing next. It's definitely got a little Christmas story in
Definitely.
it. It's solid. It's a lot of fun.
Instead of a Red Ryder BB gun, he wants a regular Nintendo,
NES.
Regular
with,
Nintendo, NES.
with like Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt. You know what I mean? That's what he wants.
Not that fucking robot that
And there's one
Gyromite,
rich
dude.
kids had.
There's one rich kid down the street that has one, and he like
You had the robot?
I had the robot.
Did you have the power glove?
I didn't have the power glove, but I had the Gyromite with the robot. And that was a fucking crazy game, man. It was fun.
showing our parents' net worth right now. God damn, fucking Richie Rich over here.
So I'm thinking of another actor that kind of is outlandish and gets thrown into a holiday movie that isn't sort of right up, where you would expect, and that's The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. That stole Christmas.
Jim Carrey.
The Jim Carrey version. So this is one that I think, against all expectations, is also in my conversation for like classic Christmas movies.
We throw this on.
And I think the reason that
I have paid
it's
attention.
unexpected is because, the original Grinch story and then cartoon is really good and iconic. And the idea that you're going to make a live action version of this immediately seems like it's doomed, it's going to be doomed. And Jim Carrey is kind of like an actor that's known for his gags, and they really work. Like, it makes the movie better, and the comedy sort of is a little bit more adult
Yes.
in it.
Do your little kids find it a little creepy though?
No, they
don't?
I think it's
Okay.
funny. Yeah, they like it. And I actually find myself pretty locked in, laugh a lot. And so I would say Jim Carrey and Will Ferrell for me kind of hit similar chords. I'm a much bigger Will Ferrell fan.
I would agree.
So, yeah.
Crazy thing about that is in that movie is Taylor Momsen,
Yeah.
the little girl,
Yeah.
who is the lead singer for a very, very heavy band.
Oh, yeah.
She sings for The Pretty Reckless.
You know her shtick, right?
Her shtick.
Like every show, she takes her top off.
Well, yeah, she usually has like little pasties on or something.
Still?
It's like a thing with
Yeah.
her band, is that like every show at some point she flashes.
Yeah,
Like
which is
everybody
crazy
takes a
that
picture.
little Cindy Who or whatever your character is in that is this singer that, and her voice is fucking crazy.
But yeah, and I think
Really
they
good.
like have fans and like they make money touring.
they're a great band.
Whether she shows her boobs or not, I think people like them. Yeah.
So
I mean that in the nicest way.
yeah, I'm going a little bit different, and so a lot of people think of this movie as a must-watch holiday movie, which is I'm not there with that yet. Maybe someday I'll get there. I'm going to keep trying. I promise, Brad. I will keep trying. But I've decided that every year there's a new addition to my rotation, which is Christmas Vacation, Christmas Story, and this, which is the Ted Lasso Christmas episode. I've decided I'm going to watch the Ted Lasso Christmas episode every single year because it is just damn good. If you haven't watched Ted Lasso please just do yourself a favor and watch it. The Christmas episode stands by itself. It's so great, and I love it.
It's so fucking good.
It's like a fever dream, but it's weird.
Yeah. Well, they apparently they filmed that and just kind of like didn't really have because it doesn't move the story at all. It's just kind of standalone. They just kind of plugged it in, and yeah, it just makes you feel good, and it's great.
It's the one that I hated, right?
The Christmas episode?
Isn't it the one where like he's like dreaming? It's like the Beard's dream.
No.
No, that's a different episode where they do mushrooms. No, that's a different.
No.
Okay.
And that episode I actually have skipped when I've done a rewatch on it, the Beard episode.
I haven't.
serious?
I haven't rewatched.
I thought it was great.
I've watched it all the way through, but haven't rewatched it. And it's incredible. I need to go through it again.
It's such
So
a
good.
watch. Yeah. So anyway, it's on Apple.
I like that. All right, let's move on.
Watch it with the kids.
No jet wash for Maverick, Meg still on that goose stick. Iceberg list Titanic, Leo's drawing that nude shit. Jim fucks Nadia like we all thought he should. Ricky and Doughboy get the fuck out the hood. Luke hooks up with Leia just like he's intending. It's time for a reshelf and alternate endings. All right, folks, we are reshelving or alternate ending this movie. Ending.
So I think the perfect like reboot / reshoot of this movie is the Office style, like fake mockumentary, like following like this guy shows up in New York City and he thinks he's an elf, and they've got like a camera crew that's going to follow him around. We get everybody's reactions as he like goes through all of these different scenarios, because I feel like there's probably some pretty hilarious shit that could happen.
Which character keeps looking at the camera and smiling like Jim?
Maybe the kid that's his buddy.
Oh yeah,
Just like giving
Good call.
snarky looks at the camera.
I like Amy Sedaris. She's the secretary of the office. Like she would definitely have some funny things to talk about because she's so excited. She's always like, super happy. And
in her first scene, did she say something about how she's gonna like space some kittens or something, or like it's like she's on the phone when he's walking up and she's talking about some sort of like.
Probably.
Yeah, it's some
she's
weird
on some
random
personal
shit.
call. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she's probably just kind of like ad-libbing that or whatever.
Yeah.
I would
It's
assume.
kind of weird.
So I've got a reshelf.
But real quick though, with Amy Sedaris, she got to reconnect with Favreau in The Mandalorian. She had a recurring character on. I think she's been on all 3 seasons.
That was my least favorite.
Strangers with Candy. That's what we know her from.
Yes, she's a famous comedian.
Go ahead.
So I would want to make this into a dark comedy.
Okay.
And the way that I do this is we cut off about the first, 10, 15 minutes? Mm-hmm. So Buddy just shows up. Right? And we don't know where Buddy came from. And then it's not nearly as it's sort of lightish, but it's not like played for gags. Like he's sort of a little bit outlandish and quirky and innocent, but like not there's not hijinks in the movie.
So it's not like a Borat, like what I'm picturing, like a Borat.
So it's
No.
like it's not Donnie Darko. It's Buddy Barco.
Buddy Barco. So we go through the whole movie and it's kind of like, the same story except a like slightly more somber tone. And we get to the end and like picture like a little less dark than The Joker.
Okay.
Like kind of that same, like, it's not like, it's not heavy like that exactly through the whole thing, but it's got that melancholy to it. And you're never totally sure. And then we get to the end and like the dad, like all of a sudden decides, we don't see Santa, right? There's that part of his is cut out.
But he was actually his kid. Like it was the DNA showed that he's his kid.
It's his kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's
and we get to the end and then he finds out, he begins to believe like, wow, like this, maybe it really is. And then they come and like pick him up because he's been escaped from the insane asylum. I'm
glad that's where you went with it.
And both he and the
son are like losing their minds.
Yeah, Zoe Deschanel and the son are all just like heartbroken.
Damn.
And then like it ends with them like going to visit him on Christmas in the like you see him like
He's like,
in the insane
I'm
asylum.
Buddy the Elf.
And
But he's
he's
in
still-
like a straitjacket.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
his
he has
cell is all decorated and
He
shit.
has his hat on and everything. It's all decorated with the paper mache.
Pour syrup in my
But
mouth.
they're like celebrating Christmas with him there. So like they still connect with him, but like he's just a crazy person.
Actually, I love
He
that.
doesn't have his elf costume on. He's got all these like scars and shit.
Yeah.
Like he's just like he's been through some shit.
Dark.
I stabbed a bitch for this candy cane.
No, I think he's still kind-hearted. He's just
He's kind of
crazy.
he's totally kind-hearted.
He's just had a rough life.
It's just that he's not really an elf, and they're like he makes them believe, and then they're like no.
Oh, I didn't even go there with it. So he's actually not an elf. He's just crazy.
No. He's
Just crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I like the idea that he is an elf, but he's trapped like to not be able to be an elf because no one believes him.
No, he's not.
Either way, dark.
I like it. I like it.
Fred,
That's a different kind of Christmas.
I'd watch that every Christmas.
I don't have anything for this. I don't want to. I don't want to mess with it.
So I think-
I really like it.
I think our vampire has got to be, who's our vampire? I mean, I don't think it's Buddy. I think it's got to be Papa Elf. Like, what's his name's character?
Bob Newhart?
Bob Newhart. Yeah. I think
it's got to be the elves.
Are all the elves are
the
vampires?
elves are vampires. So like they're like, it turns out that like elves are vampires.
Elves.
Oh, I like
they're like slumbering vampires, and they're really good natured until they get pissed.
So I like the idea of like Buddy having on such rose-colored glasses that he thinks that he just left the North Pole because they were like, "Go ahead, buddy." But then we see a flashback to where they like are actually trying to eat him, and he has to like run away.
Yeah, because they want people blood.
I actually had that conversation with my wife watching this a couple nights ago, where I was like, does Santa just kind of like, he's like, fuck it. If Buddy gets killed in New York, who gives a fuck? Like, they just kind of let him go. Like, Papa Elf kind of tries to set him up, and I know Santa gives him a little bit of advice, but at the same time, they're sending this absolutely not prepared person to go into New York by himself, and they're just like, fuck it.
First thing I thought of was, dude, okay, first of all, Christmas is over. What's Santa doing? He can't give him a fucking ride? He can throw him in the sled, give him a ride to New York, dude. No. He's got to walk across the fuck from the North Pole all the way down there.
He's trying to chill.
Santa's like, I'm on vacation.
What the fuck, dude?
He's like, I work 1 day a year, okay, motherfuckers?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not in my contract.
That's bullshit.
It's actually probably a union thing. I don't think you can actually touch it.
It's union. The elves are,
but they do just
the
let
union's
the most
fucking hardcore.
the most like naive person ever down to New York and just let him loose.
Yeah. Just let him go.
Grow up, little man.
He'll be fine.
I think
Like
they kind of
Santa.
wanted him to. I think they kind of wanted him to die.
Santa
they're
hasn't
just kinda
been
hoping that, like,
delivering.
that'll be that problem's out of here.
Out of sight, out of mind.
That checks out.
They probably thought he was going to die on the fucking iceberg or whatever the hell he took off on.
Well, he started on a big one. It actually shrunk down. He barely had a little bit left when he got off it.
This movie's actually like
a big climate change movie.
that sneaky global warming movie.
That's the other alternate ending is that he never actually makes it off of the fucking iceberg. He just actually
Melts.
dies of fucking
Drowns.
He doesn't even drown. I think you could die of like not drinking anything, right? Because all you got is salt water and ice around you.
He is human. Yeah. What the fuck?
Yeah. He just has a fever dream, and that's all we get to see. And then it goes back to him just dead with like
Maybe the whole movie is just like his like it's like his like
the whole
on
movie's
his
his dream, and he's actually in like a mental institution.
He's about to die.
just dying on a fucking on an iceberg.
Dehydrated, and he's imagining what would have happened.
That's good. That's a good alternate.
Yep.
I will say we went this whole pod without even talking about the lingerie, which is still one of the dumbest jokes, but such. I mean, for someone special, he knows nothing. He's like, I guess that's what she. And I love when he's holding it and looking at it, and Amy Sedaris, like she comes in the room, he just lets it go in his lap. It's like, oh, who's that for?
That's good.
I got nothing else. But you know what? I am glad that we did this one because I probably needed to push this back into my rotation. I watch it, but it's like one that I probably should put higher on my priority list.
If you don't put it higher, I mean, you are definitely a cotton-headed ninny muggins for sure.
Nice call. I like that.
I don't want any of you guys to be cotton-headed ninny muggins. Even if you can't have cotton on your head because you're all bald.
Well, here's what is the what's the translation of cotton-headed ninny muggins? Like what's the adult version of
Cocksucker?
They react like it is. I mean, they
I'm
react like he called himself a fucking cunt or something. They're just like, oh shit, he said that?
It's like a fucking ass bag.
But he does repeat it though. He's like, no, you're not a cotton-headed ninny muggins. Right. Like, so he does.
If it was that bad, he wouldn't say it again.
Yeah,
it's like Voldemort.
Well, speaking of great cussing in Christmas movies, what are we doing next week? You like that segue, motherfuckers?
I think that this one yours?
It is mine. We're doing my all-time. It is top of the pyramid Christmas movie. I have to watch it every year. We're doing A Christmas Story.
You might need to sign into Facebook just to go talk shit at those people on the rewatchables that talk.
I'm gonna
shit
find
about
those
movie.
fuckers. Oh
Yeah, we'll do some Jay and Silent Bob. Like, did you say this and this and this about this movie?
I have thoughts. I'm excited. So yeah, we'll talk about that next week.
Fuck yeah, tune in next week. We'll tell all those people on the fucking rewatchables page. Bye-bye.
I wanna be at Beverly's, bringing me home with my movies. Just a blind by, no reason why. I love this scene. It's got Zach and Brad, your favorite podcast. The star.